welcome to Pockenrop. This is part 2 of my review of 2022. If you haven't already watched part 1, then you might want to head back and watch that video before you watch my 10 albums of the year. I'm also going to reveal Pockenrop awards for the biggest surprise of the year and my song of the year. Before I do any of this, I'll just remind you to like by hitting the thumbs up, subscribe if you've not already done so, and hit the bell to receive notifications of future content. And let's dive in with my number 10 album of the year. So at number 10, I've placed an album by an artist I had never heard of, even though apparently they've had a good 30-year career. It's their first solo record. It's Graham Day and Master of None. This record is such a big debt to the Who Sell Out. It's the closest thing that I can relate to it. I like the Who Sell Out album, but I think I prefer this. It's kind of sprinkled over the top of it some of the fairy dust that comes from late era Kinks. And Master of None is a great record. It's worth checking out the title track if you haven't got time for the whole thing, but also Rose Thorn Sticking in My Mind's Eye is also a really good song. It's the opening track of the album, Master of None by Graham Day at number 10. At number 9, I have placed Charlie Puth'S Charlie, an album that I didn't know I was going to like as much as I did. I'm familiar slightly with Charlie Puth's previous work, mainly because of the song Marvin Gaye, which is a duet with Meghan Trainor, which I really, really like. One of my favourite songs of the 2010s. But this album is just a really good pop album. And tracks that are worth checking out are Smells Like Me, which is in contention for my song of the year. But also Hilarious, which opens the album. And Tears on My Piano is a really, really fine song as well. Charlie by Charlie Puth is my number 9. At number 8, I get no cool points for ever having this particular artist in my list, but I love them. What can I say? It's The Fizz and Everything Under the Sun. This means that this is the second time this month that The Fizz have ended up in a video, because the final track of this record is a cover of McCartney's This One, and it's done really, really well. Other great tracks on the record, Pretty Soon is a beautiful ballad. There is also Everything We Do for You, not a cover of the Bryan Adams song of a similar name, and I'm On My Way, which is almost a love letter to the early Bucks Fizz records. It's a really evocative song for someone who likes Bucks Fizz like I do. Number 8, Everything Under the Sun by The Fizz. And number 7 is an album that, after the first 2 or 3 listens, would have been a contender for Disappointment of the Year. But I persevered with it, and whilst it doesn't match up to the previous album by the same artist, it is still very good. Gold Rush Kid by George Ezra. George Ezra writes happy music, generally speaking, and in a world like now, we need more of that. So this contains the single Anyone For You, Tiger Lily, and the hit Green Green Grass, but also Sweetest Human Being Alive, the title track. It's it's a growing record. I think I'm going to like it more, but I can't see it hitting the heights of Staying at Tamara's. Gold Rush Kid, my number 7. At number 6, and the Pockenrop Award winner for Comeback of the Year. If you remember, I tend to say that it needs to be at least 5 years between records for someone to be up for the Comeback of the Year. It's True North by a-ha. This is an album that I discovered was coming out well over a year before it did, and my anticipation levels were way, way up. It's a good record. It's an a-ha record, and that's the best thing that can be said about it. You know what you're going to get. You're going to get gorgeous melodies. You're going to get Morten Harget's impeccable voice, even at the age that he is now. It's not as good as Cast in Steel or Foot of the Mountain, but it's a great record. It's worth checking out the single that came from this, As If, and also I'd really recommend the You've Got What It Takes. That's classic a-ha pop. True North by a-ha, my number 6. At number 5, I have placed an album that I actually reviewed on this channel as part of my ranking of their 9 albums. It's Will of the People by Muse. It's kind of, as I said in the review, a greatest hits of Muse without actually being a greatest hits. There is so much in this record that harks back to their history. There's a misstep on it, and that is the disappointment that is We Are Effing Effed at the end of the record. It sounds too much like the stuff that's on Drones, which is my least favourite album. Surprise, surprise. The album I like the least that's replicated in a particular track is the track I dislike. But the rest of the album is really good. So You Make Me Feel Like It's Halloween, Kill or Be Killed, Compliance, Will of the People. It's a solid record. I said at the time that I thought this was probably a 4-star record, and I think 8 out of 10 is pretty much spot on. This is an 8 out of 10 record for me. Will of the People by Muse, number 5. Number 3 is the second album in my 30 albums of the year by the same artist. It's Entering Heaven Alive by Jack White. By far the better of the records. This is his acoustic folk album, whereas the previous one was kind of like more angry guitars. I didn't expect to like it as much as I did. And the final track, which is Taking Me Back Gently, is a gentle version of the opening track of Fear of the Dawn. So in many ways, this is a double album, but he separated them as 2 completely separate releases that were more in keeping with the styles on each of the records. And that kind of works. Other great tracks on here, things like Please God Don't Tell Anyone. That's an absolutely beautiful ballad. I've Got You Surrounded With My Love, and Queen of the Bees, which was a hymn almost to his new second wife. It's an album I didn't expect to like, having thought Fear of the Dawn was okay. To then hear Entering Heaven Alive and think, I want more of this and less of Fear of the Dawn. Brilliant album, Entering Heaven Alive. Number 3 is my highest place Christian record of the year. This was released as an 8-track EP in January, and then by the end of the year it had been expanded with an additional 6 tracks. This is the deluxe version, and the deluxe version on balance is just the right one to get. It's Healer by Casting Crowns. To be honest, I haven't really listened to Casting Crowns since their debut record, which was fine. In my quest to listen to a lot of new stuff, I decided to give Healer a go, and I was blown away by the lyrical construction on this record. This is comfortably the best Christian album for me of 2022. Songs like Scars in Heaven really work for the way my brain works. That's all I'll say to that. I love the cleverness in the lyrics. Crazy People is just fun. We've got Desert Road, the title track Healer, which has got a middle eight saying more than gifts we need the giver, more than healing we need the healer, which really changes the focus of the song on from what you get to who gives it. An absolutely brilliant song. And it's the lead singer, I believe, based on some of the lyrics on here, I think his father probably died in 2021, and I can really relate to that. Healer by Casting Crowns, my number 3 album of the year, and my Pockenrop Award for Christian Album of the Year. And into my top 2. And these 2 records probably sit a good half a point at least higher than everything else. And the first one is also my Pockenrop Award for Biggest Surprise of the Year. It is Come On You Know by Liam Gallagher. Now, Oasis are without a shadow of a doubt one of the biggest bands of the 90s, but I've always had this issue about how much I disliked the Gallagher brothers and Liam in particular. But in my quest to listen to new stuff, I decided to try this out. And wow. I never expected Liam Gallagher to produce a record as good as this. This is a 9 out of 10 record for me. It's not perfect, but it's so close to being perfect that I want to go back and listen to his previous records, because I'm thinking, have I just been rejecting Liam Gallagher's music as a result of the fact that he's such an arse? And I think the answer is probably yes. Tracks worth checking out are things like Diamond in the Dark, which is in contention for my Song of the Year. Come On You Know, the title track. More Power. It's, compared to some of the records on this list, it is remarkably unsweary. And actually, I kind of appreciate the fact that he hasn't done what so many other artists do, which is pepper their records with the F word. I'm looking at you, Taylor Swift, for Midnight. Another reason why perhaps I didn't enjoy it as much as I thought I was going to. But Come On You Know by Liam Gallagher. It's my surprise of the year, and it's my number 2 album of the year. And so we come to my number 1 album of the year, which almost took surprise of the year as well. My expectations for this record were low. The previous 2 albums by this artist were meh. But their back catalogue from the 70s, 80s, even into the 90s is so good that I genuinely didn't think that would be anything approaching that quality come from this artist ever again. And boy, did they prove me wrong. I have seen this on multiple best of lists of the year, and I've also seen other people say that this is their best album since ... It is The Boy Named If by Elvis Costello and the Imposters. Like I said, my expectations of this were not high. If you don't believe me... A week later, Elvis Costello is releasing a brand new album with the Imposters, and it's called A Boy Named If. He released Hey Clock Face in 2020, which was fine. And Look Now came a couple of years before that, which is all right. So my expectation isn't massively high. I haven't loved any of his albums since probably All This Useless Beauty. And then it came out, and what a record. It is easily the best thing for me since Mighty Like a Rose, and I'm fond of that record in ways that other people aren't. His most energetic release since at least Blood and Chocolate, and the best overall songwriting on it since King of America, if not all the way back to Imperial Bedroom. There are so many shades of great Costello on this record that include things like nods to this year's model. There is orchestration that reminds me of Imperial Bedroom. There's attitude that reminds me of Blood and Chocolate. It's easily the best thing he's put out with the Imposters, with the bass playing on here by Davey Farragut in particular, feeling like Bruce Thomas. The Boy Named If is such a good record, and I've heard reviews that say maybe it tails a little bit in the final few tracks, which I don't agree. I think things like Mr. Crescent are great. I adore The Difference. That could have sat on Imperial Bedroom. Penelope Halfpenny, great song. The Boy Named If, great song. Farewell OK, great opener. If you like Elvis Costello and you haven't heard The Boy Named If, then go and listen to it, because it is truly brilliant. Would I say it's a 10 out of 10 album? It's at least 9.5. And you know what? For me, it probably is a 5-star album. I forgot to mention Magnificent Hurt. I forgot to mention The Man You Love to Hate. It's brilliant. This came out in January, which means that it's been sitting at the top of this list for nearly a year, and I still stand by my decision. Best album of the year, Boy Named If by Elvis Costello and the Imposters. So that concludes my review of the albums of 2022 and my favourite 10. The only thing left for me to do on this video now is to announce my Song of the Year. So I announced the shortlist on the last video. Go back and watch that if you haven't already. And now I'm going to do my top 5 songs of the year. Number 5, Scars in Heaven by Casting Crowns. Number 4, Maroon by Taylor Swift. Number 3, the aforementioned The Difference by Elvis Costello. At number 2, I have placed Midnight Mass Murder by Half Man Half Biscuit. Just to say a quick word about that. Yes, I know it is the tune of Cum Ronda, but the lyrics are so brilliant that I can't help but have it here. But my song of the year, and has been roughly in that position since I first heard it back in March, it's Well Whiskey Discount Cigarettes by Jacob Bryant. I love the cleverness of the lyrics on here. That there's a breakup and he can't afford to have a name brand pity party, so he's stuck with Well Whiskey, 2-for-1 draft beer and discount cigarettes. And it's a good time record about a bad time situation. Well Whiskey is my song of the year. That concludes the video. Thanks very much for watching. I'll be back in a week with my last video of 2022, which will be looking ahead to 2023. Until then, I remind you to like, subscribe and hit the bell to receive notifications. I'll see you in a week.